Hello and welcome to another episode of I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House, a comedy podcast mostly, where I talk to mostly comedians about comedy and how they got into it. Today, I'm very happy to have my guest here. We met just last week
I know.
in Washington State. Today, I have Susan Rice.
It was really nice. It's very rare to meet a guy and have him actually call you back. So it's nice. Thanks a lot. Let me just preface this to the audience. I'm much older.
Well, that's part of the reason why I'm excited to have you on, because I love hearing stories from, I hate to use the phrase back in the day, but back in the day.
I use it every day. Back in the day. It's become my signature phrase, unfortunately. But yeah.
Well, it's great to have you here. We met in Washington last week. It was a really fun show for Chris Larson. And
very good.
Yeah, I love when you meet a comic on the road for the first time and you just hit it off. And we did. From the instant we sat at the table, we were just started bullshitting and talking shop. And that's my favorite thing about working the road.
Well,
it really is more fun than the show sometimes when you just have the comics hang.
You know, it's funny after all these years too, Pat, is that I can go into a venue and meet a new comic, and honest to God, right away, I'm actually got a really good track record of knowing, oh, this guy's going to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's funny. This guy's got some chops, and I'm not going to have to dig out of a hole. It's really nice. And I was shocked when I heard your name, because I went, wait a minute, he's a headliner. And Chris goes, yeah, but he's in town. I go, okay, well, I wasn't planning on working this hard tonight, but okay, fine, okay. But yeah, it was really nice to meet you.
Likewise, you're a name, I've heard the name, and it was nice to finally cross paths and not just do that, but actually do a show together.
Yeah, and you've recently become good friends with one of my friends. Several of my friends, but Brad Upton.
Absolutely, he's the reason why I got those Washington gigs in the first place.
Yeah, he's. Brad and I started together. I mean, we were. I started in '83, and he started '83, but then came back in '84 with Commitment, and
he took a full year off after he did one open mic.
He was teaching, and he was driving 200 miles to an open mic.
I know. I forgot about that. He did drive that crazy distance for his first 2 or 3 sets. I remember him telling me that.
Okay, just an FYI, don't drive with Brad.
Okay, noted.
He's a great driver, but he doesn't keep it under 100 very often.
Oh, okay. Then I would.
He's
I would
a very
like drive.
fast driver.
Then I'm the same way. Then I would.
Okay, you would love it. Okay.
So I want to talk to you and get your backstory. So take me back to the beginning, before you were even doing stand-up, like when you were a young child. What was your interest in comedy? Movies or cartoons?
We lived in a cave. And no, just for your audience, since this is audio, I'm 71 years old. I started stand-up in 1983. Prior to that, I lived in Little Town, Longview, Washington, just about 50 miles north of Portland, Oregon, in Washington State. It was a logging town. And I always was an entertainer. Always.
Yeah?
Always.
The funny child?
I came from a funny family. So did you. We talked about this. My family was our house was that place where all your friends wanted to be, because there was food and a lot of laughter and a lot of conversation.
Oh, that's awesome.
And my mom used to hold court at her table, and she was the funniest woman I'd ever met. Yeah. And my father was very dry, but my brother's funny, and my sister was very dry and funny. And I had crazy funny uncles and all that stuff. So we were talking about street jokes. Huge in my family. Huge. Mm-hmm. Street jokes were, everybody would wait for my uncle to come and sit and tell us joke after joke after joke after joke, and we'd be crying, laughing, and it was just, yeah, it was a pretty fun house. But I was started out as a singer, and then
Oh, there. You know what? I've This has come up on the podcast a lot. There is so many correlations between music and stand up. I mean, so many comedians are musicians themselves.
I I'm not a good musician. I was a singer, and then I did learn I learned guitar when I was about, oh god, about 10, and I wasn't very good because I had really small hands, and but I had, and then I always wanted to do, I wasn't a great student. I just wanted to do theater. I wanted to do all that stuff. I was always drawn to that. So college, I went to professional acting school in San Diego, and I was a professional actress for about 7 or 8 years before I started stand up.
Oh, nice. So acting on stage or on camera or both, or
Both,
Mhm.
but mainly stage and musical theater, and theater, and then I didn't. But as far as comedy goes, I love telling this story because I can say this to the, there's people, there's Gen Zs that don't know who Johnny Carson is. They don't know who Jack Parr is. They don't know
Mhm.
who, but my mother was a late nighter, and I love that because she'd watch The Tonight Show, and
I love these stories. Yep.
and she would, and of course we watched Ed Sullivan, and we saw. I mean, I remember seeing Carlin for the first time. I remember seeing Norm Crosby. I remember seeing Buddy Hack. Well, I don't know if Buddy Hackett was ever on. I think he was on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I was fascinated by that. So Toady Fields, Joan Rivers, but the Tonight Show, my mother would come down the hall, wake me up, tell me to grab my blanket, and I was just a little kid, and I'd go out there, and I'd lay on the couch, and she and I would laugh at Jonathan Winters, and Toady Fields was my favorite, and Mom's Mabley, and we had we had albums and stuff like that. So
Do you still have the albums?
no, I wish I did. I
Ah,
wish I did. That would be awesome. But when Cosby's album came out, we all memorized it. I mean, and Carlin's album came out, we all memorized it. And I mean, it was just one of those things. And monologues were something that I loved Jack Parr because he would always get laugh until he cried. And then, and he was very sentimental. So I was always drawn to that. So I wrote a one-woman show for myself in 1983, but there was no place to work out the material.
okay.
And
What was the show about? What was the premise?
it was characters. I mean, I was an actress, so I was doing characters and social commentary. And at that time, I rode the bus a lot to work, and I got a lot of ideas about characters, and I would just write and write and write and write and write. And I always had that capacity to mimic. I could mimic anything, which is a story in itself that I had to stop watching headliners. But I
It's
did.
true though. You can really, if you tour with somebody or see the same comics enough, you can really kind of adapt some of their qualities. That's very common.
Oh, honey, not even enough. Just one shot. I'd watch it.
Ah.
And then the next night, somebody would say, I'd be at a mic and somebody go, "You sound like Paula Poundstone." I go, "Oh, well, it's because I just saw her. Okay." Because that was my training,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to retrain myself. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't have any place to work out material. And there was a little rag in the Portland, Portland little arts thing paper. And they had an open mic at the Leaky Roof Tavern on Southwest Jefferson Street in
I like the name.
Portland. Yeah. And if you put 30 people in it, 10 of them are standing. That, it had the bar right in the middle of this tiny little room, and there was little tables and a little tiny stage. And I went down there and scoped it out the first night and made notes, and then came back the next week.
Okay, so you didn't sign up. You just wanted to get a feel for it. You just scoped it out.
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I had to scope it out and see what I was getting into, and that first set was, it was my material. It was what I was going to open with, and it was going to be a little girl, a little fat girl, which I was a little fat girl when I grew up. I was a little fat girl in a leotard that I'd been bounced into because it was my nap time, and I was trying to do ballet.
Mm-hmm.
And a little fat girl trying to get her leg on the bar. I mean, it was all this crazy little stuff, just, it was
So
very,
like physical comedy too.
it was very, really a lot of physical comedy. I'm still the biggest mugger in the business. And so, honestly, but, anyway, and of course it went well. And I walked out of there and went, I don't need to write a one woman show. I'm going to do this.
Oh, cool. So
I
like
mean,
the switch was kind of flipped. You just
well,
saw that you could just do stand up in a way.
yeah. There's a story behind that too. My father was dying at the time. He was in the hospital, and I had gone up to the hospital that night, and I said, to talk to him and have dinner with him and stuff. And I said, Dad, I'm going to leave for a little while because I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to try this thing out, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you all about it. And so I did that, and the nurses knew that there was no visiting hours for me. I just came in, and so it's like 11:30, so like 11 o'clock at night, and Dad was there, and I woke him up, and he said, "What? How did it go?" And I said, "Well," I think I'm going to be a stand-up, Dad. And he opened one eye and he looked at me and goes, "Well, just be careful." I was what you could put an eye out. You're right. Just be very
Honestly, there's no better advice.
No, just be careful. Okay. All right. I got it. It's in the book. Be careful. Anyway, so yeah, it was just, it was easy. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it was one of those moments where you kind of went, you could just almost hear all the things you've been doing just kind of click into place. Just kind of went, oh.
How did that very first set go?
I want to say, well, but you have to remember, every comic says this, and I get it because they're so glad they did it and they got it over with. But
there's like a rush. It becomes a blur. The first set is a very unique thing.
And you have to remember, in 1983, Portland comedy didn't really start until late 82.
Well, that was going to be my next question: is what was the scene like at the time? So go ahead.
We were late. We were late to the party.
Portland behind L.A. and New York, you mean, kind of where the bigger comedy hubs?
Yeah. Well, it started in
Boston, I guess.
It started in the late 50s in New York City, and it was real underground, and didn't really make it across the country until the mid 70s, and it hit San Francisco first, and then L.A. Seattle didn't really start cooking, and they had a kind of a scene in 79, but they didn't have much of one. They were kind of starting up in about 1981. Really, it was, and the underground, Seattle Underground came into being with John Fox in 82. So I think we were late to the party. All our headliners that we brought in to Portland, we were all just idiots. They were headliners. It makes me laugh. I don't even call myself a headliner, and I've been doing it 40 flipping years. But all the closers we had came from Seattle.
Okay.
And I remember seeing, I had just done my first open mic, and then I saw a wonderful act, Peggy Platt from Seattle, who was the first woman to win the Seattle Laugh Off. And she was a wonderful actress and comedian. She was amazing. She sketch comedy and everything. And she was just, I went, oh, I can do that. You have to remember too, Pat, I had training. I was a trained actress.
Yeah, so you have a bit of some skills in your back pocket already.
I stepped on stage, and there was not the palm sweating and
Hmm.
I knew I could command a stage by the time I stepped on that stage. What I
That's so
was,
cool that you had that because I didn't. I was 19. I was a
oh,
kid,
you're
and I was
so
like,
baby, you're a
oh
baby.
my god, I was a total baby, and I was like, I'm just gonna do stand up, and I never acted. I played guitar for fun at home, and I just walked on stage and tried it, and I was like, well, I love this, and then I have not stopped.
And I wish I had started earlier. I was old when I started. I was 30. I was 31, turning 30, 31 and a half.
Were there a lot of other female comics around at the time, or was it completely male dominated?
No, there was not. I mean, there was one other comic, one other gal who was she was also an actress though. And she was really good. She was a singer. And she had a lot of chops, but she married a comic, big mistake. But he was also, well, he also wrote computer programming, and
Are they still together?
yes, and he did very, very well. So she made the good choice. He made a good choice, and he's one of the funniest guys ever. He was a comic for a long time, and anyway, there wasn't a lot, but for our scene, I think there was about 26 of us that would get up and try to get on this mic. And that's back in the day, they used to limit the number of people that would be on a mic.
I know. Well, if we're talking 82, 83, we're talking about the boom. So like
Oh yeah.
everybody was doing stand up because I've heard so many Philly comics talk about the boom and how 7 days a week you could get on stage 2 or 3 times, and the weekends were insane. So this is absolute prime time for.
It was, and it was, and we only had one little open mic. And this is in March of '83. By June of '83, which is what, 4 months later,
Yeah.
we had a full month, different venues, a full month.
Mm-hmm.
We had 31 or 30 different venues in Portland alone wanting to do stand up. And you got paid because it was every bar, every place with a stage wanted this. And
Oh yeah.
so it was the acceleration and there was so many places and not enough comics, which is so not the case now. But
No oversaturation.
And that was one of the things is and being one of the only women, I got a lot of work. I will say it. I got a lot of work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I took advantage of it. I wasn't stupid.
Absolutely. Also, like the more you get on stage, the better you get. So if you're getting a lot of work, you're going to get your chops better. You're gonna just excel at everything quicker.
Right. And I had my first paid travel gig at a regular club. Now I got in 83, January of '84. I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sweet Jesus. And I know.
I just booked my flight to Tulsa an hour ago, right before this podcast. I swear, you can't make this up. That's my next road trip after San Fran here, and it's Tulsa, Oklahoma.
But you're working for Tacoma. You're working for Adam, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great club. This club was
So take me. How did you get this Portland to Tulsa gig in 1984?
Well, that's just it. We were laughing about this because I couldn't remember the name of the book, but I think you reminded me of it the other night. There was no internet. There was only phones. We had phones, and there was no internet. And so I think it was probably the fall of 83 or winter. Maybe it was the first part. No, it had to be the fall of '83. A book came out called Comedy USA, and it broke down by state the name of the comedy clubs in every state, the length of dates that they booked, And a lot of these were full time. When I say full time, Tuesday through Sunday, that was full time comedy club.
Oh man.
You flew in. If you were a feature act, you flew in on Tuesday. You did the open mic. You headlined on Wednesday. They brought the headliner in on Thursday. They did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Wow.
And so that was a whole and they flew your ass in.
Yeah, that's where shit is different now.
And so you took that list with phone numbers and bookers' names. I mean, it was an inch thick. It was an inch and a half thick. It was not huge, but it was double columned on every page. So there was a lot of information. And was it up to date? Probably not. But
yeah, how often did this like publication come out? This book
once a year.
Wow.
So
who put it together? Was it like a company or was it like one person?
I want to say it was. I thought it was Fox, but it wasn't. It was. It was something. It was somebody back east. I'm not, and I, to this day, I can't remember. I was trying to find it because I know I kept it for a really long time.
I mean, I was just about to ask you if you still had this book because that would be a cool thing to hang on to.
I have it somewhere, and so
we should call these places and see how many of them are still active.
I have 2 huge boxes of my calendars.
Handwritten calendars. I love it.
I have all my at-a-glances, all my day planners, everything. But
I love that you save that stuff because I save everything too. Whether it's the show flyer with my name on it or something cool from like backstage or something, or like my favorite like hotel room keys. I save all this shit from the road. I save
the flyers from the bathrooms. I take a picture of them, and I'm going to make a collage for my bathroom of just me above the towel dispenser.
Yeah, my favorite is when I'm like me or one of my friends like directly above the men's room urinal.
Yes.
So I'm like literally peeing, looking at like a picture of Dan Cummins.
I told somebody, there's a guy coming out of the bathroom one night, and I go, is my picture above that urinal? He goes, yeah. I go, watch the door, and I go in and I took a picture of it. I couldn't help it when I have to be above the urinal somewhere.
It's part of the game. It's absolutely part of the game.
Best.
The only thing is some of those bad boys might have some backsplash on them, so you got to be careful.
I stepped very carefully, but anyway, yeah. So anyway.
But it's cool to know that you save all this stuff. Now, do you have notebooks too? Do you handwrite all your material over the years?
Because I live in a little tiny house, I had to, during COVID, it was time to clean out closets. So I started going through this stuff. And I have to say, I threw out a lot of stuff that was repetitive, just because I just don't have room for it.
Yeah.
But I have a very well represented amount of material that is over the last 40 years.
And you still have most of those notebooks and everything?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
I have at least a box and a half just full of notebooks. And it's pretty well represented because the thing that just absolutely kills you is when you leave your notebook somewhere. Because back in the day, we didn't have phones, so we brought our notebooks with us. We'd go over our set list.
Yeah, I have mine with me at all times, and when I leave my hotel to go for my walk after this, I'm bringing it with me. It always is in my back pocket. That's why I pretty much only just use pocket-sized ones, so it's always on me.
And if you lose it, it's like I just lost my life. Oh my God!
I know it's like almost worse than losing your wallet because you're losing like your personal thoughts. One time, I will say what's worse than losing a notebook is when you lose a notebook and it's found, and then the person that found it read through your stuff. Because that has happened to me, and I just wanted to. You feel violated in a ball. Oh my God!
You just violated. You feel like it's like, oh my God, what did you just read?
I mean, I don't know if everybody has their own personal journal or whatever, but as comics, we probably tend to have weirder shit written down. So they're probably like, what is this crazy shit.
I know. Or you find out that now, and this has happened a couple times, is that I found out another comic had my notebook.
For joke thievery reasons, or just being an
I
asshole
never
and keeping
knew.
it?
I never knew. And then I go, if I'd run into them, they go, hey, I had your notebook for about a year. I didn't tell you about it. Oh, what? Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah, that was one of those things. But anyway, yes, I have all that stuff. I try not to keep too much. I mean, I take a lot of pictures now because it's just, I can't afford it. I mean, the paper is just ridiculous to keep all that crap. But
how has your writing evolved over the years? Do you still have the same writing process you did as 40 years ago, or like, do you sit down and write every day, or what's your method? I know, don't we all? And I'm in a hotel with plenty of free time, and I'm probably not going to do a whole lot.
I was on the road for about 85 to 98. I was on the road constantly. I was a full-time comic, and I lived in LA. I moved to LA in 86. I got in 83, went to LA in 86. Don't know if I'd do that again. But anyway, it's a little soon. But the road was really hard because back in the day,
Call back.
you were gone. I would be gone, 3 weeks out of the month.
Yeah.
And
3 weeks straight, as in like not even coming home at all.
No, not coming home. No, because I was doing one-nighters through the Midwest. I was doing a week long in Minneapolis. I was doing this and doing that. I was Acme. I'd go to Colorado. I do Wits End, or I do the Works. I mean, it was just, and you might be home a day and a half if you were lucky. I usually tried to come home a day and a half. If they were flying me, I'd say, no, I got to come back, because I had an agent and they were not happy.
Yeah.
And so, but I got sick. It hit me. I was in my 40s, and the road, the food, the sleep, the just everything.
It beats you up. It really does.
Yeah. And then it was 1998, and the bottom fell out in about 93 of the boom.
Yeah.
And
sounds about right. Early 90s at all.
Well,
were people just tired of it, or there just wasn't a need for it? Was it like overdone?
All of the above. The thing about it is that cable had come in the late 80s, and Comedy Central, and there was all these comedy shows on television, and the clubs were mismanaged. Can I say that? There was a lot of owners sucking off the same tit.
Yep.
And there was a lot of drugs.
Yep, I've heard stories.
And then you had the steadfast guys that kept comics alive. And those are the Dave Tribbles, the Tom Sobels, the John Yoders, the Todd Johnsons, not Todd Johnson. You know who I'm talking about, East Coast.
Yoder and Tribble. Yeah.
All those guys, they kept us afloat during those years because the clubs are drying up. I used to work. You could come back to LA, which was wonderful, and work about a month and a half to 2 months just in town doing clubs. Mm-hmm. You worked for Howard Tressman, who had all the laugh stops. And then there was, you had, and in the 90s, I got into ships too. I was doing ships. So, I was supplementing it. What I was getting at is that a lot of guys left LA in 93, 94 to go home because they just, it was getting too expensive to live there. And they were on the road anyway. So they might as well have a cheaper place to live and
Mm-hmm.
go, you know. So a lot of guys went home. I didn't go back to Portland until 98. And I came back in an emergency on a plane to rescue and recoup. And I ended up moving back here. And I had to get a day job for health insurance. I had the best day job in the whole world because I had a friend of mine was working in a children's clothing company named Hannah Anderson. And she said, come to work for me part-time. I'll get you health insurance.
Oh, wow. So what did you do for the day job there? What was your job?
Well, I was a call center rep.
Okay.
Which was, I almost didn't make it. And, but they let me go anytime I had a gig.
That's awesome.
It was a dream. It was a dream.
When you are a working comic who also needs a day job, when your job is supportive and gives you that freedom, it's the absolute best. I'm very familiar with this territory.
Anything that gives you the ability and the confidence and the security to say no is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Having that little day job, bringing in a constant paycheck and working and being able to say, no, I'm not going to Canada in January. Okay. That's just not going to happen. You know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was really empowering. And I got a lot of flack from a lot of comics. So I'm going to tell you that. Oh, you have a day job now. Oh, so you're not a pro. No, I'm a pro. I put my time in. I'm a pro. I just have only me. I have to take care of myself.
Absolutely. And in today's current situation of comedy, the number of comics I know with day jobs far outweighs the number of comics I know. Yeah. Yep.
Well, first of all, there's not the income on the road anymore as there used to be. But I mean, I remember.
No, and that's one thing that I find crazy because I'll never forget my buddy Joe Matarese. He's a New Jersey comic, really great, funny guy. He told me when he started in the 80s, he was a full-time working comic, just the MC. He would drive all over Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and he was making a full-time living doing comedy as the fucking opener. That blows my mind.
Yeah, because, well, did you know that the East Coast adopted the Canadian format? The headliner basically was the MC.
Yeah.
He ran the show and he was the star of the show. And they did that for a really long time. The first time we went to Canada, we didn't understand what they wanted, you know. They said, who's headlining? And whoever it was that was headlining and said, okay, well, you'll be the first act on. And went, what?
Yeah.
You know, what?
Totally different from what we do here in the U.S. of the host, middle act, headliner type deal.
Well, and we're not sure when. I mean, I know that it changed somewhere in the early 80s, but for many, many years, the East Coast followed that pattern. That's probably one of the things. He was working these old. He was probably working some of the old dinner clubs and stuff like that, emceeing, and that he was the star of the show.
Yeah, I think he was working everywhere that possibly could. But it was just, in general, it was just such a different time for comedy where, like you said, the pay it's crazy.
I stuffed $4,000 in my bra and flew home one day. I mean, I got as much in my wallet as I possibly could, but you got cash.
Yeah.
There weren't checks. They gave you cash. So I had been out for 3 weeks, and I had a lot of money on me.
Yeah.
And it scared the holy bejesus out of me. I go, I can't do this. I got to figure out something else. But yeah, those were, I was in LA at a really good time too. So that was another thing. It was,
what years were you in LA again? You said you came back in 98.
I went down in 86. I'd only been doing stand-up for 3 years when I went down.
Who was your crew of friends when you were in LA?
Well, I was just going to toot this horn because I'm still really proud of it. When I told you there was 26 of us, it started in Portland in 1982, 83. 10 years later, 19 of us were pros.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
It's a solid percentage, yeah.
Really good percentage. And I was the second Portland comic to go down. There was a really great guy. His name is Robert Jenkins. He got heat first. He was seen at one of the competitions and was approached by APA, I think. I can't remember, one of them, one of the big ones. And they moved down. He had a small child. And then I moved down. They moved down in August of 85. I moved down in March of 86. And then it was Dave Anderson and Jeff Stilson. Stilson has many Emmys. Tom McTeague. My buddy Dawn Green, who is a great comic. She married John Wing out of Canada. Was a major comic. We had our own little.
Your crew.
Yeah, we had the crew. And there was and I met a lot of wonderful comics. So one thing about Portland is by 1984, June of 84, we had two major clubs. John Fox had a full-time club in Portland, and The Last Laugh, which became Harvey's later on. But Last Laugh had four clubs. They had San Jose, and then they came to Portland, and then they went to Phoenix, and then they went to Seattle.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you could work all those rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were here. And so we had we had that. Then we had a ton of road work. And then we had Seattle, Seattle. We worked the undergrounds. We worked a ton of work there was blocks there was a lot of weekend work. This is the thing that you and I were talking about the other day, is that this is what these kids don't have now. They don't have those weekend rooms that aren't actual clubs, but they're bars that want to do comedy on the weekend. Mm-hmm. Like we had, where you got to go and you went up, you did 2 shows on Friday and 2 shows on Saturday, and you got to run your half an hour 4 times.
Yeah.
You don't get that here now. You don't get that anymore.
Not the full half hour like that. No.
It's 15-minute increments if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you get a 20-minute set, you figure, oh, wow, that's great. That's what's missing. We have no solid feature acts anymore.
Running your half hour. I mean, I don't even know if that many clubs, like rooms, let the middle act do the full half hour anymore. I feel like a lot of it has become 20 to 25 minutes.
I don't, this is where being an old...
Not all, but I feel like most clubs took the middle act down to 20
well,
to 25.
When I said, Chris, how much time is Pat doing? And he said, 30 minutes. I went, yes! Yeah. I was just like, first of all, I was excited to see you. Second of all, it's been so long since I've worked with a feature act that even has
30 minutes.
Solid, yeah. Solid 30 minutes. Now, granted, the people that we worked for the other night were old. They were my people. That's what I wanted to say to you. I go, I'm really sorry you're not really getting.
Oh.
But you rolled. It was fine. You were a pro.
Well, I mean, I've figured some stuff out along the way, and I have a lot of jokes about my parents. So I notice if the crowd is older, and I do casinos, and the crowds can be older. I just open with the stuff about my parents right away because I'm the same age as their kids.
Right.
So
exactly.
Opening with that stuff does wonders for me.
I love the look on the kids' faces when they're working with me, and I tried to say, they might be a little older, so just, and they'll walk in and they'll see a sea of gray, and they'll come out and their face is just white. Oh my God. Oh my God. I go, well, you're going to have to figure this out someday. Just don't pander to them and don't talk down to them. Okay. Because they will eat you alive.
My grandmother, who was passed away a couple years ago in her mid 90s, said something to me 15 years ago that I think about all the time. My grandmom was at a show, and I didn't hold back. I wasn't super dirty, but I cursed a little bit, and I
You're
just
not
did my.
dirty. No, yeah.
Well, I was dirtier when I first started. I feel like every comic is. But I
Hmm.
asked her if she was offended by me or any of my friends, and she goes, not at all. She goes, I've heard and seen more than anybody else in this room in my lifetime. And
Exactly.
I think about that all the time because you're like, oh, these old people, they're not going to get me or they're not going to think I'm funny. They have seen and done way more shit than anybody. It's so true. You're not going to shock them.
No,
I mean, they may not like you or care for your stand up, but you are not going to shock them.
exactly. And that's what I try to tell them. I go, they were at Woodstock. Okay.
Yeah.
They smoked their body weight in pot. You want to just calm the hell down.
They were dropping acid. They still love the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, they fought wars. They're good. Okay.
Yeah, they can handle your dick joke.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But anyway, but yes, I put on a seminar just this week, which I've never done before. Being the old gal in the scene, the kids are very nice to me, and I want to say that they are kind. They put me on their shows and stuff like that. It's very sweet of them.
That's great.
But yeah, they're very kind. But
Portland has a great scene too.
it does.
There's a lot of funny people in Portland.
And I'm really proud of it, but I'm also worried about it because nobody's looking at it as a whole. They're looking at it individually, and you can't do that to make it sustainable. You have to keep an eye on what's going on in the coming up. And I mentioned it earlier about the mics. I opened it. I had Tyler Bowe, which has had, huge success with Dry Bar and has 2 number 1 albums in the country. Tyler Bowe was with me. And then Andrew Slater, who is amazing and has had probably one of the best James Corden sets I've ever. If you've never seen,
I'll have to watch that.
I've never seen anything so powerful in my life. I mean, I have seen some great flipping sets on national, but I tell you, I was just blown away. Anyway, so we talked about the business. We invited working comics to come and discuss the business end of comedy, not material, and they had a really good thing. But one of the things I yelled about, I said, you guys are the leaders now. You guys are the leaders. You guys are the ones that they're looking up to. So start giving them some good advice about how to curate a mic. Because you pick out the ones, you will find out that if you start limiting the number of people that want on that mic, you're going to find the ones that have the fire in the belly and really want it. And those are the ones you put up, not the hobbyists, not the guys that have just been, dared to over 3 beers.
The people that care, that want to be in it, that want to cultivate a scene.
That are taking up the time of guys that people really want it. So they went, oh, and I gave them some ideas, and they, but I'm not very nice. I told the boys, I can't talk much because I will yell at them. Anyway, okay. So anyway, but we did
sometimes people need that.
Well, I just, I was amazed at how many people emailed back and said, thank you for being so passionate about the scene. I said, it's my scene too, even though I'm not running it anymore.
Yeah, but you've been a part of it for 40 years. Is there anybody else in Portland that was started with you that's still also out and about doing it in any capacity? My
podcast partner, Art Krug.
Oh, nice.
Art and I were roommates. We'd done theater together, and he had this dream, and he's actually probably the one that told me about where I could work material. And I actually went first, and he went 2 weeks later. So we started our careers at the same time. And that's awesome. We just shot our first special in January. Not special. It's special to us, not special to anybody else. And I shot, and we did it together. It was 2 shoots, or it was 1 shoot, but anyway. And we celebrated our 40th.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is this something you're going to put on YouTube or?
It's well, if it ever comes out, don't get me started. But yes,
Well, I hear you. Where did you film this at?
at a wonderful little theater, which Pat you could rent, and it has a 7-camera shoot, all 4K,
Wow, 7. That's actually a lot.
and it's amazing. It seats about comfortably 160, 185.
That's perfect size.
Beautiful stage. It's called Curious Comedy. It's in.
Oh yeah, I've heard that name. Absolutely, absolutely.
It's a beautiful space. So you want to
Actually, I think I did a showcase there before. Because when I used to first go to Portland, I would do Helium, but I would try to do late night open mics on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and bounce around and get on other stages. And I'm almost positive I did either did a mic or a showcase there.
Well, it's been remodeled. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's since that time that they were doing those late night. But we did our seminar there, and and they have 2 rooms now. They have another one that's really nice, also cute, smaller, 60 people.
Awesome.
Still a 3-camera shoot, so it's really quite a deal. But
Portland has always struck me as such the city itself is so supportive of the art of stand-up comedy. Like I know, like when I first started going to Portland on a regular basis, Ian Carmel, Shane Torres, Amy Miller, Sean Jordan were all still around. And I remember
Sean's in town. Sean lives here.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I remember like just seeing that like the local newspapers all covered so much stand up and that comedians wrote for their local newspapers. And it's like, man, I don't think Philly really has that. Like they're a little, I just feel like, I don't know. Maybe
everybody in Philly's funny.
Yeah. But I just feel like all the local newspapers covered all the stand up shows and let you know where it was happening. And that definitely does not happen where I'm from.
There's a love-hate relationship with the paper system, with the local weekly rags here. I mean, the Mercury is very supportive as long as you're 35 and younger, or 35 and younger. The Willamette Week, once in a while they have the big contest. They call it a contest. It's not. It's the best of. Every every city has the best of.
Yeah,
and they
funniest person in Cincinnati or whatever.
Right, exactly, and that's that's the story I told you the other night. Is I got called by this gal who was working for the Willamette Week, and I met her brother, who was also he was a sports writer at All Jane when I did All Jane. Curious Comedy had a great festival for women called All Jane No Dick.
I was in Portland, Oregon one time working at Helium, and the All Jane Comedy Festival was taking place, and I met some female comics there that I am still friends with.
Yes.
I was talking to one yesterday, Irene too.
Yes. Yeah.
We were just texting yesterday.
It was great. And but anyway, so I got called and they said, you're going to be, can we have coffee? And I said, she goes, I'm doing an article on Portland comedy and I'd like to talk to you about it. And I said, okay, sure. So we go out for coffee and she's talking to me and she said, I said, so why did you call me? There's Ian Carmel, there's Gabe Dinger, there's all these, bunches. There's all these people that you could have interviewed. She says, yeah, but you're on the list. I said, what list is that? And she said, well, I'm interviewing all the people that were nominated for the top 5 funniest person. And I said, what is that? And she said, I'm so sorry about that. So anyway, she said, I said, why am I in the top 5? She says, well, people voted. I said, who voted? She says, well, the comics vote and club owners and all these people vote. I said, I'm in the top 5. She goes, yeah. And I go, well, go to number 6. Because I just move on. Just keep going. Just go down one. And, she says, no. And I said, look, it's not my scene anymore. It's the kids' scene. They need, this is more for them than it would be for me. She says, I said, I don't work Helium. I work Harvey's, but I don't, and that Harvey's was still going at the time. She says, I can't, you won. I went, what?
I can't, you won.
I go, well, go to number 6. Just move everybody up. Anyway, that was, and it was very sweet because I found out it was the comics that voted.
That's awesome.
That was very sweet. So
That is
it was very
awesome
sweet.
and definitely well deserved.
Well, we'll see.
So we're going to wind down here in a second, but I
love.
Sorry. No. I always keep it just like a little bit under an hour. It's perfect. It's a great conversation.
I didn't get into my Seinfeld story I had for you. I didn't get into my Paul.
Do it right now. Absolutely.
No, I was just telling you. I just listened to some of your other podcasts, and I love how some of them were talking about the famous people they got to work with.
Oh, by all means, tell your Seinfeld story.
Early on, it was. I was 1984. It was January of '84, and I got a call from a gal in Seattle, Laura Crocker, who was booking shows up there. She goes, "You want to open for Jerry Seinfeld?" Now I had a day job, and I go, okay, who's that?" And I was living with Art, and I go, "Art, who's Jerry Seinfeld?" And Art stayed up and watched the Tonight Show all the time and Letterman, and he went, "Jerry Seinfeld? You don't know who it is?" I said, "Art, I have to get up in the morning. I don't watch the Tonight Show. I can't watch it anymore." He goes, "He's famous. Just say yes." I said, "Okay." So I did. I was up in Seattle, and they asked me to pick Jerry up and drive him to Tacoma because I had the nicest car, which was a '74 Super Beetle. And I said, "Okay, I don't know where I'm going, but okay." So we had maps back then, no GPS, and I had to
use the road map.
You had to use the road map. I had my map, and I had to be at this hotel with the sign that says Seinfeld on it, and I had to pick him up and then drive him to Tacoma, which was 45 minutes away, and out to this big bar showroom on the Sound. I said, "Okay." Well, I didn't know that he didn't know me. I didn't know him. And he's walking down to the car. He goes, "I suppose you have a Volkswagen?" And I went, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "Okay, well, I like Volkswagens. It's fine." I go, "It's only 45 minutes. I'm sorry. I'll make it as comfortable as possible." So we drive out to the gig, and he's nice. He's pleasant. You can tell he's perfunctory. But he thinks he has to talk to me and ask me the perfunctory questions. And it was fine. I hadn't been doing stand-up very long. I was just, okay. So we got there, and he went in, and he was going to try to have something to eat before he went on. And people had been at this, parked their docks at 3:00 in the afternoon for a 7:00 show, and they were drunk as skunks. The whole audience was just plowed by the time the show started. And she put 9 comics in front of him.
Oh, man. And he was just like booked to headline?
It was headline. And he'd already done a couple Tonight shows, and he was booked for a Letterman show. And so it was big money. He was making $1,000, and they flew him in. So I had to get back to Portland. I wanted to watch a set because, unlike a lot of the comics now, I always stayed to watch the headliner. I still stay to watch the headliner. But anyway, so I wanted to see as much as it was said, but it was almost 11:00 before he went on.
I can't believe there was 9 comics ahead of him.
He put 9 comics in front of him. Luckily,
was he pissed?
Oh yes, he was pissed. So
and rightly so.
And plus, this audience was completely plowed, and all they did was yell at him and talk to him. It was horrible. So about 20 minutes into his set, I look at my clock, and I'm going, I have to be at work at 8:00 tomorrow morning, and I have a 3.5-hour drive. I got to go. So I said goodbye and thanked the booker, and got my Volkswagen, had to get gas, stopped to get gas, reached for my purse. I pulled up Jerry Seinfeld's purse, his man purse, with his airline tickets, all his money, his passport, everything is in my car. He thinks I'm going to be driving him back to Seattle. So now I've got to...
So he left his stuff in your car.
Right. So now I've got to get the gas because I'm almost out, drive 90 miles an hour back through Tacoma. I drew 80 miles an hour through downtown Tacoma, trying to get out to the venue before they leave. all the cars, it's a 2-lane, all the cars are coming this way. I'm going the other way. I'm looking at cars trying to see if there's 4 people in it, if he's in any of these cars. And I'm honking my horn all the way to see if he recognizes my car. All of a sudden, I look in my rearview mirror, and there's Jerry Seinfeld plastered in the back window of an old Ford, some kind of a car, just this big back window. His face is plastered. He's going, ah, like this, because he recognized my car. So we pull over. He gets out. He goes, I can't believe. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't know your stuff was in my car until I stopped to get gas about a half an hour up the road. I said, I'm glad I found you. He goes, anything. He goes, I can't believe you came back. I said, all your shit's in here. How are you going to get home? He goes, yeah, I was thinking about that. I go, yeah. So he goes, listen, you ever come to LA, you look me up, anything you need at all. Skip forward, 1989. I get my first national. I'm trying to work sets all over town. Every time I get a set at the Improv, at Igby's, at the Ice House, anywhere, I'm getting bumped. Every single night. I have these choice sets because I've made really good contacts at this place. And I said, okay, I need this. This is my first national. I need to work my 5 minutes. Granted, they're going to give me a 9 o'clock spot. Perfect. 9 o'clock spot, 9 o'clock spot, 9 o'clock. I get all these great flipping spots. Every time I come in, he's bumping me. I finally asked Jan Smith, I go, who the hell is bumping me? He goes, oh, Seinfeld's in town. He's getting ready for a spot. I said, fuck that. I know Jerry Seinfeld. So I was at the Improv and I got bumped again. And he was in the bar and I didn't know he was in the bar. I literally bumped into him, spilled my drink on Jay Leno and turned around and Leno goes, oh, geez. I go, oh, sorry. I turn around, I'm sorry. And there's Jerry. I go, oh, I need to talk to you. And he goes, do I know you? I go, I saved your ass in 1984. Volkswagen, Tacoma, Washington. He goes, yes, I remember you. And I said, stop bumping me, you motherfucker. I'm tired of it. And he started laughing. He goes, am I bumping you? I go, would you just please ask who you're bumping before you bump somebody? He goes, well, that's a good idea. I said, yeah. So he made 3 phone calls for me. And I got sets everywhere. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
When was the last time you talked to him or saw him? Forever ago?
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of stories I love when people share on the podcast. That is truly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you my Paula Poundstone one then. All right. Anyway, another time.
We got a few more minutes.
Do you remember the first headliner that blew your mind that you worked with?
Blew my mind that I worked with?
Yeah. That you got to go, oh my God, I just worked with a genius?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's also numerous people that I could answer for that. But yeah, because... Yeah.
I know, but the very first one, I was just barely wet behind the ears. It was 1984 again. And Fox had opened a week-long in Portland at One Main Place. And he was bringing in all these San Francisco headliners. And some of them were fabulous, and some of them were just couldn't get out of San Francisco. They shouldn't be out of San Francisco because they didn't have any material that it wasn't San Francisco. But I knew who I was waiting for. I was waiting for Paula. And I kept begging to MC the show that Paula was on. And he was giving it to all the guys. All the guys got all the sweet gigs. And I was like, come on, just let me do one. Just let me MC for her. Just let me MC for her. Paula Poundstone turned 29 years old the week that I worked with her. Mm-hmm. No, she didn't. She was 27. She was 27 years old, and she had a pact with herself that she was going to die at 29. Paula had been raised it was an amazing story, but drugs were plentiful, and she had social anxiety really badly. And she would put her head down on the bar until it was time for her to go on. And I went up, and I was so excited to finally get to meet her, to work with her. And it was the most mind-blowing thing I'd ever seen. She sat on the floor one night under a stool, under a table, and did her whole show and just blew the place up. The next night, she stood behind a curtain that looked out on the street and did nothing but commentary for a half an hour on
people walking by,
on what was happening outside. The audience couldn't see, and they were crying, laughing. The next night, she got the whole audience to promise to come back. She had a taste for a Slim Jim. The whole audience, and I'm talking 150 people, walked down to the 7-Eleven and bought Slim Jims from this guy and came back, and she did another hour. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This was a control that I had never seen in my whole life. And it was just fascinating. And the next Monday, we had a show in Springfield. It was a tag-on. And I had my Volkswagen, and she and Kurt Weldon, who is a major writer now and a brilliant comic and brilliant man, he was featuring. So I had them in the car. Paula laid in the back seat with her legs up against the ceiling of the Volkswagen. Again, social anxiety. She didn't like being in small places, and she didn't like talking to people. So Kurt starts this conversation, and Paula starts chiming in. And Pat, I am not lying to you. This is the honest to God truth. Mm-hmm. It's a 2-hour drive. She carried on a full conversation on multiple subjects using song lyrics and never once repeating herself. I had to pull my car over twice because I was laughing so hard I couldn't see to drive.
That's so awesome.
That is a genius mind.
Do you still keep in touch with her? She was one of the first comics I saw on television when I was a really young kid, like really, really young.
Yeah.
I absolutely remember her. She's one of the few comics I seen on television when I first grasped the concept of what stand-up comedy even was.
Yeah. She's, yes, I can text Paula and she'll respond.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, she's a lovely person. We would run into each other in LA, and I was always amazed that she remembered my name. You know, because by that time she was sober, and she was, Paula was one of these people that she was such a genius, but she was such an enigmatic person that LA didn't know what to do with her. They couldn't put her in a box. They had no clue what to do with her.
Yeah.
They gave her a show, but she had to write it, produce it, star in it, and she had to hire her guests. Honest to God, they gave her a budget, but it wasn't much. She didn't have any writing budget, and she shot it. It was HBO, and she shot it down in Santa Monica. It was insane, but it was a great show, and she carried the whole thing. But
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
A lot of unnecessary work for one person. And
she was, I think she adopted her first child then, her second child. So she just didn't have time. She didn't have time for that stuff. Anyway, she's a wonderful person and brilliant. I'm so sorry. I should have.
That's fine. I never got the chance to see her live yet, at least.
Oh, you must do that. It's completely different, Pat. You really should, as a comic. It's like watching. Emo Phillips was so completely weird and so
seen
different.
Emo a bunch of times.
And Emo it's not my cup of tea, but I am fascinated by watching him. I can't take my eyes off him because there's so much going on. There's so much going on. So anyway, we could talk forever, and I love that. I feel like I have a new friend.
That's the blessing and the curse of this podcast. It's that.
Can I pump my podcast?
Absolutely. Well, that's how I was going to wrap it up. Tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm Funny Old Bag on Instagram and on TikTok. And
that's such a great name. I mean, it really is such a great social media.
And it's my brand. And then I'm also a co-host on Stop Me If I've Heard This, which is two old comics talking about comedy and talking about getting older and talking about life. And we've been doing it a long time. We have 12 followers, so please follow us. It's a lot of fun.
All right, I hope to get you to 13 or 14 with my.
I hope so too. I know you have a lot
here.
more, but it's actually Art and I. And let me tell you something. Art Krug, my partner and my comic friend, is he's one of those guys that sits back. You have a comic friend like this. It just sits back at a table of comics and listens, and then always has the best line of the day. That's Art. Art is just brilliant, and he has.
Well, I'm gonna check out your podcast too because I have.
I'd love to have you on.
Flight. Anytime.
Okay.
Text me anytime.
Oh, good. Okay. Yay.
Thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you so much for talking about your career and telling me. I'm glad you got the Seinfeld and Paula Poundstone stories in there because that's the stuff I love on this podcast. Well, so thank you.
Oh, you betcha. Thanks a lot. Well, 40 years I've lived. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Have a good day, honey.
You do the same. Susan Rice, everybody.